welcome to Ouroboros Automotive. My name's Logan, and today what we're going to be talking about is the coolest minivan that you could ever buy. And I'm talking about the Eagle Summit Wagon, also known as the Mitsubishi RVR. So the Mitsubishi RVR was originally released in 1991 in Japan, and there were a multitude of trim lines, similar to how we have a ton of them here in the United States. But the key thing about the RVR was that it was classified as a subcompact multi-purpose vehicle. In layman's terms, you got a minivan about the size of the Fiesta, but taller. It was also a 3-door, so you had your 2 front doors and then a sliding back door in order to get to the back seats. And when Mitsubishi designed this, what they were intending to do was make a vehicle that was more geared towards younger people. And so you had a very spacious back seat, and it could fit around 4 to 5 people. That back seat could also fold completely forward to be flat. Also, the high top design of this van made it so that they were wanting to make it so that it could go semi-off-roading somewhat, or go out into the woods or out into the wilderness in a very light capacity and be able to camp and do things like that with this. The key thing about this minivan, though, was the engines that were offered, pretty much. You either had a 2-liter inline 4, a 2.4-liter inline 4, or a turbo diesel. The key thing is that 2.4-liter was the 4G63T, and it was also all-wheel drive. The 4G63T is very important because of the fact that it is found in the Mitsubishi Evos. And everybody knows the Evo has always been a battle with the Subaru Impreza STI. And so what you're talking about is a minivan with an Evo engine in it and all-wheel drive. Same transmission, same transfer case, same differentials. And so this minivan, which was the Hyper Sports Gear RVR, I know, a lot of words, but it was a 279 horsepower engine. And when you talk power to weight ratio, you're talking 2.9 pounds per horsepower. American units. I use pounds. I'm American. So, all of that is all well and good. Beautiful car. But what does that mean about the Eagle Summit Wagon? So in 1993, Mitsubishi started importing these, and they were rebadged as the Dodge Colt Wagon and the Eagle Summit Wagon. And the Dodge Colt sedan was completely different from the wagon. The Dodge Colt sedan was actually based off the Mitsubishi Mirage, and the Eagle Summit sedan was based off the Mitsubishi Lancer. And then the wagon versions were obviously based off the RVR. Now, the only problem is like with most JDM and EDMs, the United States does not get the wide variety of sub-trim models or engines that are offered in other countries or in their native market. And a lot of that has to do with like taxation and things like that. Part of the reason why we don't have the Volkswagen Scirocco here in the United States. But we ended up with a less stellar vehicle. And part of it's due to, well, safety regulations, which I don't really understand because the Eagle Summit Wagon was offered here in the United States. So I'm not entirely sure why it couldn't have the drivetrain of the Lancer because, well, the Lancer was offered here. So a lot of that just escapes me. So we got a really, here in the United States, we got a really dialed back version of the Eagle Summit, but there was still a high trim line. This high trim line, though, had, instead of the 4G64, it had the 4G63 engine in it. The 4G63 engine, non-turbocharged, is what you find in the Mitsubishi Eclipse Mitsubishi Eclipse Spiders. And that's the second generation Spiders from like 95 to 99. And that engine's also a you have a turbocharged version of that engine that's found in the GSX and the GST. So pretty much what we ended up with was, instead of having an Evo minivan, we had a Mitsubishi Eclipse minivan. Still not bad though, especially when you start considering the fact that it still produced 135 horsepower naturally aspirated in 1993. Not bad. Still not bad. But it never really caught on. The subcompact minivan wasn't really that type of thing for the United States. The United States hasn't ever really been one for subcompact vehicles. I mean, look at the Ford Fiesta. And even though we were in part of that pullback for like oil prices and everybody competing in order to get smaller vehicles and more fuel efficient vehicles, the RVR just never really took off the way that they wanted it to, which is kind of sad. But when we start talking about power and everything like that and horsepower, technically horsepower is just kind of a made up number, because 1 horsepower is just, in theory, how much a single horse could pull. And we use that number kind of sparingly. Yes, it's become more of a quantifiable number as the years go on. But a great way to look at it is based upon power to weight ratio. So I'm going to start using a wonderful chart. This side. Chart. And so as you can see, this chart will show a few of my favorite vehicles personally, which are the Veyron, the GTR, and then some of the more normal vehicles, your Ford Mustangs that we see a lot in the United States. It also is going to track my vehicles, the XJ and the Fiesta, as well as vehicles that we've already gone over, including the Mitsubishi 3000 GT R4. I know, giant mouthful. So, as you can see, the Mitsubishi Expo, or the Eagle Summit, or the Dodge Colt base, bare bottom, like your 4G64 that we got in the United States, is down here at the very bottom at 20.8 pounds per horsepower. And then when you look at what they got in Japan, the RVR, that was at 15.6 pounds per horsepower. Not all that terrible, not that bad looking. Especially when you're talking about a minivan. So the last thing that I wanted to touch on is I want to start getting into this for vehicles that aren't widely offered here in the United States. And that is, how do you make one? Or how do you get one of those nice RVR sport gears here in the United States? So it's actually pretty simple with this one. All you need to do is find yourself an Eagle Summit. Hopefully you can find one with the 4G63 in it, so you're kind of going to want to look for the all-wheel drive. You are going to want to look for the all-wheel drive version. And all you have to do from that point is pretty much take the head from an Evo or any aftermarket head for a 4G64 and slap it onto the 4G63 block. I would highly recommend using forged internals before dealing with or before trying to turbocharge it. But this has been going on for years because the 4G63 is actually cheaper and more readily available than the 4G64 block. And that's because the 4G63 was put into everything. And the 4G64 was only put really in the Evos. So what a lot of people do, especially with their Eclipses, is they take the 4G63 and slap a 4G64 turbocharged head onto it, as well as the exhaust manifold, and run it. And when you're talking about a minivan with the same exact transmission, transfer case, and differentials as the Eclipse, there is a niche market out there for DSM, Diamond Star Motors. And I think this is an even smaller group within a small group. Like, you talk about Evo guys or STI guys and things like that, and it's a rather large group here. Same with Corvettes and Mustangs and things like that. Well, then DSM is like a very small one, and then I don't think even the DSM people would recognize the Eagle Summit Wagon as being a DSM, but a lot of the hardcore DSM guys I don't enjoy anyway because, well, they just not my cup of tea. They are very specific on what makes a DSM, and there's no changing that. But that's all I have for you guys today. I hope you guys enjoyed learning about this subcompact minivan that could literally compete with a lot of the things like RX-7s and Supras and things like that at that time period. I love sleepers. So again, thanks for joining me this week. Go check out my links below for you to order shirts and hats and hoodies. I am running a promotion through May. If we get to 10 orders, I will be taking my XJ to go to the dyno and dyno testing it after it has never had anything really done to it in the last 22 years. So I think that will be a really enjoyable video to do. Also, make sure that you like and subscribe and go down and check out my Facebook and my Instagram page. And again, thank you guys so much for tuning in, and I will catch you guys next week.